Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday morning. Okay, last night's live stream was kind of interesting. There was a really good question that was brought up that I wasn't aware of, and of course got me to investigate it. Of course, this was after the live stream ended and a little disaster we had around here. No sooner did the live stream end, typical, let the dogs out, and Daffy had to see a skunk in the yard. So yeah, it took us a little bit to clean a dog. That was a fun way to spend 9:30 at night, but neither here nor there. Okay, so the big question that somebody had last night was on the Department of Defense Directive 5240.01. And I hadn't heard anything about this. This apparently was refreshed the end of September. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago. And what it entails is authorizing the Department of Defense to use the military to assist law enforcement, including the use of lethal force against American citizens. It was kind of interesting. That's been added since the last time 5240.01 was ratified. Now, you guys probably know that federal law states that active duty military, and reservists would be called to active duty, are not allowed to operate in a law enforcement capacity on American soil. That is the National Guard's job. But 5240 amended it this time around. Okay. Now, back in 2016, the last time this thing was ratified, it was primarily the use of the military for intelligence collection, ensuring civil liberties protections, that sort of stuff. Kind of the way that I was used going back years and years and years ago, on intelligence collection. Sure, we were allowed to do that, but we weren't allowed to shoot at people. Well, they changed it, And now the regulation authorizes lethal force under specific conditions. I wonder what those could be, and I wonder what their intent was. And you've always got to look at intent with stuff, all right? Go back 4 years ago, and the Democrats' favorite boogeyman, January 6th, the ones that they try to blow up into something it wasn't. In my guess, this is exactly what this was for. Now, the silly part about this is, and there's mountains of proof on this, Trump wanted to call the National Guard in on January 6th, and Nancy Pelosi turned him down, So they can say whatever they want, but the reason that you had an issue on January 6, 2021 at the Capitol building was because Nancy Pelosi failed to do her job, not that Donald Trump did anything. Sorry, those are things that Democrats hate. They're called facts, But here, in a nutshell, is exactly what we've got. And I'll link the whole thing below if you want to go read the 22-page article. It's fun reading, I will tell you that. Paragraph 3.1. Defense intelligence components may provide personnel to assist a federal department or agency, including a federal law enforcement agency, i.e. the FBI, or a state or local law enforcement agency when lives are in danger in response to a request for such assistance. Got it. So that means that the active duty military could be called to help federal, state, or local law enforcement if there was some sort of event where lives could be in danger or bodily harm was possible, which usually means any crime, Maybe not breaking into a car, but, it could be protests, it could be riots, it could be carjackings, it could be burglary, right? Somebody breaks into your house with a gun, yes, the military could come in and say, you know what, we're taking over. I want you to start thinking what this could be called, okay? I'll give you a hint. It starts with an M, okay? Here's the big part, and I want you to listen to this. Assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. This is now setting the stage for martial law, that the military could be weaponized. I mean, come on, we've already weaponized the DOJ and the FBI, but now this feasibly authorizes the government, the Department of Defense at this point, to weaponize the U.S. military to be used against U.S. citizens. Now, let's take a look at what pretty much anybody with a brain expects to happen after the election. That there are going to be protests, that there are going to be assemblies, let's just put it this way, of people. Now, who is the one that is going to make the decision whether or not bodily harm is possible, that lethality is possible? If 100 people show up in front of a courthouse somewhere with signs that say, "Stop the steal," can the military go in? Are you giving them arrest authority? We're giving them the authority to use lethal force against American citizens. I want you to realize this. This is the U.S. military being given authorization to shoot and kill American citizens. Stop and think about that for a second. Now, like I said, we know what's going to happen. We know, irregardless who wins, Trump or Kamala Harris, there's going to be some pretty unhappy people. Kamala Harris was out yesterday in an interview with Charlemagne the God, talking about, does she think it's going to be a free and fair election? And of course she says no. Of course not. You plan on cheating. We know that. That's the only possibility you have. Even in betting markets right now, you're down something like 11 points. If you look at current polls, the only swing state you are ahead in is Wisconsin. Okay? The only chance Kamala Harris has to win is to cheat. So what are they setting the precedent for? The polls all look bad for her. The public betting markets, if you will, look bad for her. Her numbers are sinking like crazy, aren't expected to get better, pandering to people saying, I'll give you free money, trying to buy your vote ain't even working. But if we have the same thing happen this time that we did last time, that we all go to bed thinking Trump won and wake up in the morning and our jaw hits the floor going, what do you mean? We know the cheat is in. And of course, you will have similar situations to what you had last year. But this time, we've now authorized the Department of Defense to use lethal force against the public. Go back to 1/6. Do you think, with everything that happened, people climbing the walls, people going in through windows, do you think that we'd have more than 2 people killed this time around if the exact same scenario happens? it would be a shooting gallery, depending on the person. There's going to be many soldiers who are going to be like, hell no, I'm not shooting at Americans. Excuse me. But there's going to be a few that are going to be like, I'll do whatever. And I'm going to give you this as a reminder. Remember about a year ago when they had the National Guard surrounding the White House? You know, fences were put up and we had protection for the White House. There were National Guard members that were relieved of duty from standing guard because they did not support Joe Biden. Don't for a second think that they aren't going to handpick the troops that are sent to quell any uprising as to ones that are supportive of the leftist potential government. They've already vetted all these people, I guarantee you, in plenty of places. There aren't a whole lot of people in this country who are quiet about who they're voting for. We know that. The military's no different. So they've handpicked, there's already a list on some commander's desk that these are the people that we will be sending in any sort of uprising. This is a worrisome issue, big time. Giving the government the authorization to use military force against its own people. Let's take a look in history where that's been used. The Soviet Union, Communist China, Vietnam, Cuba, Nazi Germany. That's what you get. That's literally what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are pushing for. And this is now policy. I've said many times, be careful on November 5th, November 6th, and the days following. Many well-respected people, a lot more public than I am, have said the same thing, that no matter what happens, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be different depending on who is elected. But I don't think there's anybody that believes Kamala Harris has a chance. Not even Kamala Harris. I think they all know she's sunk. That doesn't mean the crazies aren't going to come out. That doesn't mean they're not going to try everything they can. I mean, look at what they're already doing. Lawsuits to keep illegals on the voter rolls. Lawsuits to keep dead people on the voter rolls. Refusing Georgia, forcing people to certify the results even if they have found fraud. I mean, that's insane. We're telling you, no matter what, you have to certify fraudulent numbers if you see them. Really? Okay. This is what the Democrats are fighting for. If they don't cheat, they can't win. That's the problem. And when they still lose, I pray to God Trump pulls 100 million votes out and too big to rig. But they're gonna try to cheat. You think Bush v. Gore in 2000, where we have to wait 17 days until they finally said Bush won? You think that's long? They'll fight this up until Trump puts his hand on the Bible, saying it's not right, it's not right. And then we'll have the Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton book tour for the next 10 years saying, I was cheated out of the election, I actually won, yada, yada, yada. And they will continue to stoke the fire. They've called for the man's death. They've called for his imprisonment. They've used lawfare against him. They've tried to assassinate him twice. They're using whatever they can. As Trump said, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in the way. This shows they're going to get him out of the way, and then they are coming after you. This is martial law, guys. This is what's on the ballot. Pinball out.